America, a country where freedom was every man's birthright, where a man answered to his conscience, not a royal oath. But over the years, we've traded away that freedom, one war and one government promise at a time. This is the Destroyercon show. If you felt that loss, if you noticed that the country is changing into something more controlled and bitter, then you already know why we're here. If you like what we say, please subscribe and share the show. Let's return to a nation conceived in liberty. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Destroyercon show. We are joined today by, obviously, me, Liam Childers, my co-host, Keller Williams, and our special guest and friend of the show, longtime friend, personal friend, Mr. Joe Britton, who's a wonderful person. We'll have his Twitter and everything in the bio or everything. Joe, do you have anything you want to say to introduce yourself?
So I have a hot dog right now, and I'm ready to talk about shit.
Awesome. That is all we need to hear. We have a pretty fascinating show today. Obviously, it's been a long time since our last episode, a few weeks actually, and we just were really busy. I mean, it's the school semester, so you know how that gets. And the main thing was that we also kind of felt that between the Epstein files and the Iran war buildup, there really wasn't much else being talked about in the media. So there wasn't just much for us to actually comment on. So we didn't know about doing an episode.
Yeah, we waited till this.
Yeah, we waited.
This situation.
Yeah, we waited until the war started because we knew the war was going to start. It was like, why are we going to just keep talking about the war starting until it actually starts? And then, you get to the point where it does start, and you're like, oh, well, now we want it to develop a little bit. And here we are. Ali Khamenei is dead. His son has taken over. I've told myself I was going to remember how to pronounce his name. And then I have forgotten his name. Mojtaba Khamenei, the new Ayatollah Mojtaba, has taken over. He is supposedly a Kantian. He is supposedly more radical than his father. I would imagine so, since, the U.S. has, in this war, killed his father, his wife, his child, and I believe his grandchild. Either way, he might not be the most willing to negotiate, which is ironic because President Trump just the other day said that this attack would have been a failure if someone worse comes to power in Iran. Needless to say, most experts believe that this is a firm rejection of President Trump, who just in the last few days has said that when they pick an Ayatollah, he wants a say in the process. They clearly, he has not had a say in the process, and the war seems to continue. Keller, do you have any words on this new Ayatollah, what you know about him?
I gotta read a little bit more about him. Considering he's the son of Ali Khamenei, I'm sure he'll be a great leader. As he navigates through this quagmire we've gotten ourselves into. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I thought Pavlovi was gonna be it, but Trump said he didn't want him. He said there was gonna be someone that essentially the CIA will pick. He said they'll have their guy on the inside side. It was gonna be their pick, and it wasn't gonna be Pavlovi, but I guess that didn't happen. And other than that, yeah, this has been a very crazy week. Considering that it was attacked, Iran was attacked on the technically the eve of Purim?
Yeah, and it was during Ramadan as well.
Yeah, of course during Ramadan when they're technically in a more weakened state. I think that's happened before. I was actually
the Israelis historically do use holidays as a time to start wars, or they've also had it. Yeah, they've also had it done against them in the past.
Yeah,
And
which
most
is
famously Yom Kippur.
yes, a very interesting little connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I will say, I thought it was gonna be Afghanistan. I guess my Nostradamus senses were a little off.
Yeah.
Uh, with all the blowback, or at least I guess is it more like created, manufactured blowback at this point? I mean, because like what 2 or 3 episodes ago, it was with things escalating in Iran, not Iran, Afghanistan. I was talking about like what you're gonna see is an increased amount of attacks coming from being at least by being claimed from Afghanis or the Taliban, or but instead we're getting actually terrorist attacks. Oh, alleged. We're not sure, but they're investigating it at the very least. Um, Couple that's supposedly happened. Well, supposedly, it did happen. Whether specifically because of Iran is it remains to be seen. Coming out of Austin, Texas, and on a flight to Nashville from Southwest Airlines, we're seeing a lot of um weird things happening. Um, with this going on. So, I mean, it was crazy. I was a little off. I was a little off. I'll admit that. But we're gonna start seeing my next prediction is we're gonna start seeing a number of terrorist attacks, quote unquote, being done in the name of Mojtaba Khamenei and Iran, and people are gonna be sucked into it, and they're gonna blame it on radical Islam. I've already seen this today in the podcast I was listening to the other day. Um, on the Pinpoint podcast, uh, we're blaming radical Islam, and definitely not the fact that these are possibly uh, manufactured crises, or I guess attacks being done in order to drum up support, because support for this war. Do you know the exact stats on
It's
that?
like 25%.
Like,
It's like 25% support. It's incredibly low.
and I think it's even lower
It's like
among Gen Z.
it's like 55% of Republicans support the war. That's pretty
So
insane.
we have to run a sway scheme on the American people to get support to bomb children again in the Middle East, and kill civilians and completely rupture their economy by attacking their oil, attacking their, what was it, desalination.
Yeah,
Their only way to get like clean water in a high mountainous and deserty area, having so we're just gonna like completely obliterate them, and we're all gonna clap and cheer, and it's gonna be awesome because manifest destiny. We love killing brown people for no reason at all, other than the fact that we don't like them. And then they wonder. I think I saw Dinesh D'Souza was like, they chant death to America, but we brought the death, or something like that. He said on
yeah, I've
X.
seen stuff
It's
like
like,
that as well.
why the fuck do we think they say death to America? Which they don't mean death to the American people. I think even Khamenei has said this before. What we
Yeah,
mean by death to America is death to the American government.
he continues to
And
try to torture us and try to overthrow our government and interfere in our
exactly,
country, and it's been doing so since the 50s. All right,
exactly.
Joe, what are your immediate thoughts on this conflict? I imagine you have a lot. I know we've talked about some things, but I want to hear just your basic intuition, feelings, what you think about the administration, etc.
Um, I think this administration is a disaster, and this war is literally insane. Probably the most obviously um unjustified of like anything that I've lived through. Like at least like 9/11, like we got hit, with something, and people that didn't know like had a reason to be like, oh well, maybe this makes sense. But like this is just completely insane. Um uh but yeah, it's based with the new guys at Kantian.
I think that your feeling is essentially the feeling that most people have at the moment, Joe. I think it's very important to highlight. And this is kind of going back to what Keller was saying, is the fact that it's really interesting that the administration has done so little to justify the war. Like, essentially, they have
To go back
basically
and forth on like things every
Yeah,
day.
every single day. It'll be something like, oh, we did it because, like, for instance, Marco Rubio will say that the reason we did it is because the Israelis were going to do it anyways, and we had to make sure that we didn't take the blowback effects. And then that gets out, and everybody's like, oh, that means that we are fighting the war for Israel, which, hint, it really does. And then the administration immediately has to pivot and be like, no, actually, Trump dragged Israel into the war. And it just ends up being the fact that I think that they really didn't have a plan. Every single day, it seems like they push back how long this war is going to take, and I think that demonstrates that the reason the American people feel so confused by this situation is because there's no plan. Like, it's just a terrible situation. They haven't thought this out. So I think we're going to continue to see the situation get worse before it gets better. It seems like America is continuing up the escalation ladder, or at least if they're not continuing up the escalation ladder, Israel is trying to drag them up. I think that the fact that Israel hit these oil refineries in Iran was a really big move because it basically justifies Iranians hitting our oil refineries in the Middle East now. And same with this report of them hitting the desalinization plants, where now it seems like it's going to turn into a tit for tat. We've already seen damage done to the desalinization plant in Bahrain, which this is really detrimental to our Arab allies. Some of these countries in the Gulf, they get like 75% of their water from desalinization. So if these plants go down, you're talking about wide-scale drought. And Iran, it's bad for Iran as well in certain regions, but Iran does get most of its water without desalinization. So it is a war that they can win. Same thing with the oil. Iran gets a lot of money from oil, but in a lot of ways, the global economy is not prepared for this situation. You're already seeing countries in Europe and in Asia have their oil reserves dry up. Most of these being our allies. The irony is that somebody in the administration are claiming that this is not for Israel and this is for other interests, yet our theater in Europe now has basically been swung completely in the Russians' favor, and it seems like by the day that seems to be the case in Asia as well. I think that another thing we have to mention is that we already have 7 dead Americans in this war. I think that's really quite shocking, and I imagine the number's higher. I think the administration is the kind of administration that would lie to us about how many people have been killed so far, or at least
That's impossible because Trump said and Brylan Hollyhan said that we had no casualties. So that's impossible. You couldn't say that. That's fake news, bro.
yeah, it is amazing how this conservative ink crowd. I really think that this is the real woke right. It's not really that woke right doesn't exist. It's just that they applied woke right to all the people who weren't woke. But this crowd of people that essentially will just defend their side no matter what. They're in a cult. It's a cult of personality.
Exactly.
Yes, it's a
Like,
cult of
that's what pisses me off
you should critique
much.
your party. I think, and this is something I believe should be true of anybody. And it's one of the things that a lot of these people that are really loyalists to Trump, I think, need to hear, which is especially to me as like a Southerner, is that like it's part of our ethos that as Americans, as Southerners, as people of a culture, that you're supposed to resist the government if they're doing something wrong. That's the only way you can hold them responsible. You're supposed to show the party that they did something wrong. You can't just make it like a hockey team or a football team where it's just a blind loyalty. Then it becomes a religion, and there's no value to that. All that ends up leaving is to like primitive tribalism, and what we see now is war over and over and over again, because it allows the people who are powerful to be able to do whatever they want to because they know that you'll back them no matter what. And it gets our people killed.
And that ethos doesn't even extend to the South. That's like the whole point of America. It's like,
I know. I'm just saying that, like, I'm trying to talk to I'm saying to the dispensationalists, a lot of these people do come from the Deep South. They should realize that it's part of their heritage. I mean, these are the same people that were resistant a lot of times to both Parliament and to the king during the English Civil War. They're the people who fought in the Civil War, our Civil War. They're the people who fought the American Revolution. There should be a cultural resistance that's to be in the heart of every American, but especially Southerners. And I think that the fact that they have been convinced to die for Israel has become a real tragedy. And it will always be. It'll always be the poorest states that are the ones who get their kids killed. This is always the case. It's always states like Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia that are the ones who are on the front lines. It's never Massachusetts or California. It's going to be our kids who get killed in this. So I just really think that we need, huh?
I was gonna say, like, Tuberville and Katie Britt have been like talking about how it's gonna be so great for, like, the Department of War to like have recruitment, like, have new bases down here in Alabama, all that stuff.
Yeah, because
Right.
their friends are going to get a lot of money from it, Joe. Their friends are going to get a lot of money from it.
Auburn's already getting a lot.
Yeah, and yeah, Auburn already apparently has some shady connections with
Oh, it's not shady. It's not shady. It's like known. Like
it's like open DoD.
Auburn University actively works with. Well, yeah, that too. But Auburn actively works with and does research projects, and helps develop weapons with the military-industrial complex. All those companies, Lockheed. Was it Graham Drop? I can't.
That's why it's one of the best engineering schools in the country. It's got one of the best aerospace programs. It's essentially
We're not woke. We're not woke.
It's essentially a recruitment farm for the military industrial complex in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And this, to go on what you were just saying, Keller, I do love this defense of it, where really the reason, and I've seen people basically make this argument, that really the reason that this war is different from those other wars is because we're not doing it for woke reasons. Have you seen this? Where the reason that Iran's gonna work like Iraq is because like Iraq, George woke Bush went in there and wanted to do a woke regime change. We want to do a based regime change, so therefore it's better. It is like,
what was it that Hegseth said? It was there wasn't gonna be a regime change, but the regime did change.
Yeah, the regime certainly did change. Well, and it's actually quite funny because you see all these dispensationalists. They talk about the weapons, the nuclear weapons, and how Iran was going to get nukes. And if that was true, why would you put in the hardliner candidate? I mean, I guess Trump didn't put in the hardliner. The nukes that
we took out like 6 months ago.
Yeah, the nukes that we destroyed. Apparently, somehow those nukes came back 6 months later, and apparently, and this is, again, keep in mind, we have not really attacked any of Iran's nuclear facilities because this has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. This is a classic regime.
What did we rain down missiles on? What did we actually hit? What did we?
A girls' school.
Oh yeah, that's
right. They confirmed it today that it was an American missile that hit the girls' school.
I saw Trump, they were like on a plane or something, and they were asking about the school that got hit, and he's like, I don't know. And Hegseth was like, we're investigating it. We're gonna see what happened.
Hegseth might be the most incompetent Department of Defense secretary ever.
Nah, but dude, he's like, oh, there's like the Jerusalem cross on his chest.
Dude,
And he has caffeine written on his arm, dude. He's like,
He's literally the way that they depicted him on South Park.
Yeah, like literally, literally, he is. I mean, it's actually quite shocking how incompetent he is. He's basically like he's good in front of the camera. He's he does well in front of the audience. He's on TV forever, but oh my god, he has no brain. He's a complete drunk. He's a drunk.
He loves bombs so much. He drinks so many Jaeger bombs.
Yeah, dude.
Just to stop the shakes. When he has it bombed into Palestinian children, dude, he's like he's bombing his liver. He just loves it.
Dude, so true. So true. Oh, also, did you see the thing where they were bombing? They were setting off the bombs, doing the bombing campaign in Iran, and they had bombed the targets, and all the targets they were bombing were like paint. And they were bombing the paint. They were bombing the paint. Yeah. The Americans were bombing the paint. And so like
how much do those missiles cost again?
It's like $4 million. It's like $4 million a missile, and we don't have enough of them. And I think we should get into that, talking about some stuff soon. But before we get to that, I want to talk about further. You kind of brought it up already, Keller, but Blowback. And I think to kind of connect it to one of the things we talked about before, I think there's two kinds of blowback in this kind of war. There's obviously the escalation ladder, which is like, for instance, we're hitting the desalinization plants, we're hitting the oil plants, and now Iran's going to hit them back. Same thing with Israeli strikes. There's been a lot of interesting stuff about Israeli strikes in Azerbaijan and what the Kurds are going to do and all that kind of stuff. But I think specifically on the American effects, I really do agree with you that it does seem like there's going to be probably attacks on American soil as a result of this. There's already been 2 reports in a week. I imagine it's just going to escalate. I imagine that the regime, when it happens, will use that as a justification for boots on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a false flag or something. I'm not going to say that it's like I have any information about that or anything. It seems like they have been hinting at boots on the ground. The fact that Trump doesn't seem to care about blowback, I think the administration probably would welcome it. I really do. I think that anything to make people feel that they have to fight this war, even if the war's already started and they can't convince people of it, I think that there is probably a level where that would be considered to be a good thing. I don't know if it would actually play, but I think people are scared of it. I think people are actually worried of it. It was interesting last Monday after the war started. I'm living currently in like the Washington area. So, like the routes towards DC were just empty. Like I hadn't seen that little traffic in a while, which was odd for just a normal time on a Monday morning. And I get to
the pizza parlor.
Well, they had been, I think, the night before. I think it was more like a lot of the offices got the work from home order because they were worried that on the Monday after, when people were coming back to work, they would get bombed or something like that would happen. And that is what I had heard. So I tend to think that that's probably reality, and I think that that's kind of situation is going to continue. I would not be surprised if we see stuff more like Houston. It was Houston, right? I know it was Texas. I can't remember where exactly.
UT Austin.
Austin, sorry. Austin.
Yeah.
But, so, I mean, we're going to see instances like Austin. I think the guy in Austin, if my understanding was correct, was just a rogue actor. He was some guy.
Well, there has been a guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
there hasn't been a lot anything confirmed. They're still investigating.
Well, I know that, but he was from
But
Senegal, and Senegal is a
which is
majority Sunni country, so I can't
which
imagine.
is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was listening to Aiden talk about this, and like he was going off about how it's like an anti a Christian, radical Islam type shooting. But this dude was a naturalized citizen from Senegal. Senegal is majority Sunni, so it's most likely if he was a Muslim, he was a Sunni Muslim, and Sunnis have beef with Shias.
Yeah,
Like
no, but
they
but this
consider
is
them
this is the
kafir.
thing, though, right? Is that the bombings on the Gulf states, and I think the fact that the Americans
That is true.
are not defending the
Well,
Israelis.
the thing is that he supposedly was also wearing um the actual Iranian flag
Yeah,
under it.
I know, but I just don't think there's any real connection. I think it's like what
Well,
happened.
close.
It's like the Boston bombers, right?
Mhm.
It's these cells that they get radicalized, and they just kind of are independent lone wolf actors. I imagine that the guy, and I think this is what's going to be the real concern. I don't know how many Iranian terrorists there are in the U.S., but there's a heck of a lot of Muslims, and a lot of I think the Sunni belief kind of is becoming. Say what you will about the Shia, they're not as bad as the Israelis, because when push comes to shove, we've been fighting the Shia for so long, but we buy this defense from the Americans, and the Americans will sell us out for the Israelis when push comes to shove every single time. And I
Well,
think that's had a radicalizing effect. I think also, like, our defense of what's
maybe,
happened in Gaza,
maybe.
and Gaza is majority Sunni.
Yeah.
So, like, I think that it's not crazy to believe that this war is going to cause lone wolf actors to spur up,
Mhm.
regardless to whether or not they're Muslim or not, or they're Sunni or Shia or not. Um,
Well,
one of
I've
the
seen a lot.
main. Oh, sorry.
I've seen yeah, no, you're good. I've seen a lot of, like, the, Shias going off on how the Sunnis they consider them to be cowardly
Yeah,
and basically sheep to basically agreeing because they're the countries, like, the countries that side with Israel are also
yeah, they're
Sunni.
all Sunnis.
And so I don't that mean that could be a possibility, but it seems that there's a more division with the Shias being like, we're the guys that stood up against Israel while you Sunni nations did nothing
Yeah,
but
but I
them.
think I don't think that really I don't think that's the same thing as the people on the ground. This has always been the case. Is that
That is true.
these
There is
countries,
a divide between social media and real life. That could
well,
also
not
be
social media in real life, between the government and the people. Like Egypt,
okay. Well,
everybody in Egypt hates fucking Israel, but we pay the
yeah,
Egyptian government a few $billion a year so they don't have a problem with Israel. We do that for every single one of these Gulf states. It doesn't
yeah, that
change the
is
fact that the people on the ground hate Israel. I don't think that the people on the ground think of the Iranians really as their enemy. They think that they're dying for Israel. And I think a lot of them are very mad at their monarchies for that. They're mad at their leadership. And I think that that's part of the blowback. I mean, you're already seeing this in Bahrain, and Bahrain is majority Shia. So take that with a grain of salt, because it is a
Mhm.
Shia country, but it is a Sunni monarchy, and you're seeing a lot of riots start to happen in that country that haven't happened since the Arab Spring. It's the fact that the Saudis had to come in and basically put riot control into Bahrain to take back the situation. And the Saudis, I'll tell you, are quite brutal when they do that. Um, Part of the blowback that I was going to get into was what's going on in Iraq. And I think that Iraq is still, and has been for a while, the real theater to watch out for. Obviously, there's going to be bombs going off in Iran for a while, but the lack of a U.S. presence in Iraq, coupled with the fact that Iraq is a majority Shia country, with a large Kurdish population in the north, I
Mhm.
think that there's a good chance that if anything happens anywhere, the worst case scenario is Iraq going back onto fire.
Yeah.
The Iraqi Kurds are saying they are not going to support the Iranian Kurds. I imagine that is a way of trying to keep the country together. We'll see if that actually ends up working. I think the Kurds may have learned from past U.S. actions using them to basically fight their wars and then them always getting screwed over in the end. So I would imagine that the Kurds probably won't play that big of a role. The Balokis seem to not have played that big of a role. And the interesting thing about that, with them trying to, if they can't topple the government, then maybe we can break apart the regime and have a civil war based on ethnicities and so on and so forth. But the problem seems to be is that they didn't plan to do that. They have no plan. I mean, the fact that they're asking the Kurds to do this now shows that they hadn't planned to do this to begin with. The fact that the Balakis in Pakistan and in Iran are actually supporting the regime as opposed to being against the Iranians shows that they didn't plan to do this to begin with. And I think it goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, which is that the administration just has no idea what they're doing here. They have no idea. Joe, I'll get back to you. Do you have anything to say about that?
About which part?
I think just about like what the ramifications of this are going to be long term, what blowback there's going to be, and if you think the administration has any idea of what they're going to do next, or they have any plans for that blowback, or if that's just kind of they just don't know what they're doing.
There was an article that I saw yesterday or the day before that said that the Trump administration or the FBI, whatever, same thing, is not working with localities to tell them about potential terrorist attacks in response to the thing. So that's insane. So yeah, this is all like part of something, and you know, I I feel like, on the evangelical like front of it, like this is like a psychotic like build the third temple, like we're making Jesus come back or something like type thing on some level, which as we know is kind of like in some ways an Israeli creation distortion of Christianity. It's dispensationalism. So there's that angle that it's not just like, oh, crazy evangelicals interpreted the Bible wrong. Like, no, this is a part of a thing that is like being religiously a war that's being religiously waged, with two cooperating sects, being that of evangelicals and Jewish supremacists. So yeah, blowback is likely like a thing that's going to probably definitely happen, and to probably varying like degrees of intensity. And the Trump administration wants that to happen, because otherwise they would be like working with localities to tell them what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I really do think that the fact that at least the lack of concern for a terrorist attack probably means that they think that it would actually bolster support for it. I mean, I really think that's probably the case. And I'm glad you got into the dispensationalism, because one of the things I wanted to talk about is the causes of the war. I think this is just really demonstrates the power of this Israel lobby. It's not the Jews or anything like that. It's the specific lobby of Zionist and dispensationalist allies in Christianity. Your Mike Huckabees, your Mark Levins, your Ben Shapiro,
Bruce Pearls.
your Bruce Pearls. Yes, all of them who are very wealthy, very well connected, and they have these connections to these billionaires like Adelson and them and the Ellisons, and they're all connected in the Epstein files. I mean, all of these people are in the Epstein files. I mean, maybe not like Bruce Pearl, but like pretty much like when you're talking about these people, they're one step removed from Jeffrey Epstein, and it because I mean Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent, and I think that like this war in a lot of ways is to cover up the Epstein files. Like it's just kind of odd that they started this right after the Epstein files were really big. The protests in Iran failed, so they needed to do something. It all just kind of culminated together, and I think the fact that it all culminated together is one of the reasons that it seems so unprepared. Is because it is unprepared. I've seen reports saying that the Israelis were actually preparing to do this in June, and they moved it up the scheduling quite quickly because they were worried that the administration might not go with them by then. So we got the war. I mean, but we don't know what we're doing, and I think that's really the scary part is that we've already kind of lost control of the escalation ladder.
I mean, and Joe, you even said that during this week or whatever, during this entire situation's been going on, they've been deleting Epstein files recently, the DOJ.
Yeah, the DOJ has just been like yoinking stuff out of the like files.
And they also had the report that they released that more explicitly detailed Trump's involvement in intimate affairs with minors, and that came out recently as well. So it does.
I've seen so many like MAGA people say. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Joe. Say what you're gonna say.
I've seen so many MAGA people be like, "Whoa, the files that were released exonerated Trump," but yeah, all these other people, because like I think there was like one email that was like Epstein was like Trump's like one of the worst guys ever, and I was just like, okay, in what context is this? Because that could be complimentary or degrading.
Yeah.
Like he probably still did some shit and maybe wants to like rat for his own advantage.
Yeah.
So like it's not out of the question that that he's exonerated. Like part of this is also also to cover up for the Epstein files while they delete stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a big part of it. I think the biggest part of it still remains, though, that this is Israel's war in the Middle East. They wanted this. It's the last of the 7 countries. And if they can destabilize Iran while being a nuclear power, Israel believes that they can basically be the regional hegemon. They can control all Middle Eastern politics. And besides some interference from Turkey, which they are now even saying that they want to go after Turkey next, so we're having our 8th country. I imagine that it might be harder since Turkey is a NATO member. That would be pretty shocking. Talk about the end of NATO. That might be the goal. Imagine if they end NATO just so they can get us to do a regime change in Turkey.
Yeah,
that
and they're also they also re-hit Lebanon again.
Yeah, they've been hitting Lebanon. Hezbollah is back, and they're hitting
because of Hezbollah. Yeah,
and I think that goes into something else. Is that we really don't know how much damage has been done to Israel, and we really don't know how much damage has been done to the U.S. I've seen a lot of reports saying that there's been pretty heavy damage to our bases in the Middle East, more than the Pentagon wants to report, and that's one of the reasons I think the casualty figures is higher, is because they've really knocked some of these bases to the point that some experts are saying that we might not be able to return to them. So that would be pretty crazy if like some of our major bases in the Middle East are just really not operational anymore. I think Kuwait was one, and Bahrain. I think that obviously they'll probably still operate from Qatar because that's the big one, but Qatar's been hit pretty bad too. Also, the Qataris are friendlier to the Iranians, so I think the Iranians have been going a little bit easier on Qatar. But either way, it really shows that, really, when push comes to shove, like they're taking these SAT interceptors out of this region and all moving them to Tel Aviv. They won't defend our Arab allies. They won't even defend our own bases. The war is clearly for Israel, and I think that anybody who tries to deny that fact is just lying to themselves. It's not anti-Semitic. It's not anything like that. It's just reality at this point. I mean, like the only people who benefit from this in our alliance that are our allies are the Israelis. The Arabs, all of our Arab allies believe it's the Israelis, and they live right next to them. They have no interest in this. It's the fact that like one of Trump's good partners and former friends is a powerful man in the UAE. Basically said, who gave you the permission to do this? It doesn't benefit Europe. Any leverage that Europe had in Ukraine is now gone. Russia is threatening to cut off European oil because now Russia is the only provider of oil that they're going to have. It doesn't benefit the American people, and it doesn't benefit our war in Asia. And this is something I've been wanting to get into. I've seen a lot of people spread this lie, and I want to know if you guys know anything about it or if you've heard it at all before I really go into debunking it. But this lie about how the Iran war is actually about China. Have you seen this?
No, but I would love to hear
Seen
your
it.
thought.
Did you say you saw it, Joe?
I forget who said it, but I saw it.
Yeah, I've seen a number of people. It's like Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, those type of Daily Wire types. A few other people. Like it's the kind of people you expect. And essentially their argument is because, well, really, Iran will now shut down the Strait of Hormuz. So by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, that means it's going to cut off Chinese oil, and if we overthrow Iran, it's going to limit their Belt and Road Initiative efforts in the region, and then China won't have access to the Persian Gulf. The problem with all of that is that it just doesn't make any sense. If this war is about China, there's a lot of facts that you would think would be taken into account. First off, our THAAD interceptors. All of our interceptors, right? Like we lost 25% of them in the 12-day war. This war is expected to last how long? And we've defended Israel and essentially in just that short period, we lost 25%. How many have we lost already in this current conflict? When are we going to run out? And what does that mean for us in a war with China, which is going to be fought with missiles? Like, obviously, it means that we won't be able to fight a war with China because we won't have the interceptor missiles to fight them back. We already are basically below capacity, and we continue. We already lose in the missile war with China anyways, but if we continue, it just becomes more and more and more of an inevitability. There's just no real argument there that entanglement in the Middle East helps us. And then, of course, there is the fact that if it was true that we were doing this to defend China or to defend Taiwan from China, you would expect that we wouldn't take assets from the Asian Pacific to move to Iran, but we have done that. We've taken interceptors from South Korea that we specifically put in South Korea to defend South Korea from China, which the South Koreans didn't want at first because they believed that all it really did was escalate tensions with China that they didn't want escalated, and it caused a big diplomatic incident. But they eventually took them and were told that this was to defend them. And now, after going through that diplomatic incident and everything, the Americans are taking the interceptors out of South Korea and moving them to defend Israel. So explain to me how this is defending our allies in Asia when we're literally taking the assets out of Asia to defend Israel. It just makes no sense because there's no sense to be made. The next thing, of course, is the oil. They talk about, the Strait of Hormuz will be closed. China gets about 20% of its oil from the Strait of Hormuz. What they don't mention is China is quickly loosening its oil dependency and is one of the top electric vehicle manufacturers in the world because they control so much of these raw earth materials needed for EVs. But if we just take that off the table, it's still about 20% of their oil. It would be a big hit to their economy. Of course, they conveniently leave out the fact that Chinese vessels currently are the only vessels allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. So
Yeah, I called that. Ships identify themselves as
to the fact that other ships that are not Chinese were attempting to identify themselves as Chinese, so the Iranians changed the approval process to Chinese language, and the ships weren't able to do it. So Chinese ships are able to move through the Strait of Hormuz. They're not being limited. The problem as well is that, yes, even if China is dependent on that region, all of our allies in surrounding them in the region that we are supposed to use as our umbrella of defense against China, all are more dependent than China. I mean, Japan gets 95% of its oil from the Strait of Hormuz, from the Persian Gulf. The Japanese economy is likely going to collapse if this war goes on long term. Coming after the weeaboos tried to say that there was going to be some kind of like second Japanese empire that was going to rise up. And so, I mean, there might be some truth. I did not say you, Joe. You're a Kantian millennial anime profile picture, not a millennial. Not a weeaboo. I'm talking about these weird people who, like, they think that somehow Japan is going to go back to 1945 once they remove the Article 15, I think it is, Article 14 or whatever, in the Japanese constitution that makes it so they can't have an army. Like, Japan would have an army anyways, or if they've needed an army, they wouldn't find a way around it already. But it's just completely nonsense. Again, like, you just take Japan completely off the table. South Korea, I believe, is about 70% dependent on Gulf oil. So you take the South Koreans off the table. You put South Korea in a much worse place in relation to North Korea, much less China, and you move assets from Taiwan to defend the Persian Gulf. So make sense to me how that's about Asia. Even if you do topple the Iranian regime and put in some democracy, so much of the refineries will be destroyed. It'll be a long time before the Persian Gulf, if this really becomes a long-term war and we're actually able to topple the regime, which is what's going to be required to topple the regime, the assets would be destroyed for a while, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild them. By that point, Russia's already probably shipping most of its oil to China, and you've solved that problem. And whatever problems with the Belt and Road Initiative, I think that those can be resolved in much of the same ways. So basically, to be expected, it's a lie to basically say that this war is not completely about Israel. And the usual types, the Daily Wire and the Free Press, are the ones who continue to promote it. And as about as usual, it has about as much intellectual gravity as is expected from those publications. But I just have been seeing it, and it's one of those things. I've been writing about this kind of stuff, so I think it's pretty important. So, do you guys have anything to say about that? Does that make sense to you?
a little bit. It's just basically it's not about China.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just not. It has nothing to do with it. It's just that, like, their justification is like based off of complete lies. And I mean, it's one of those things that nobody was even saying this was about China until we hit them. So now it has to be about China because they don't have a justification. And it's just the same thing as they've been doing throughout this entire war. And it's just, I've heard this myth from some people, especially like in like my orbit. They've asked this kind of question a lot, and I think that, like, it really needs to be noted that no, this is not about China. This is about Israel. That's pretty much it. So, you guys have any more thoughts on the Iran situation?
I think we got. I think we covered it. Anybody? Joe, you have anything else to Any other input you might have? No.
No, Joe
Well, I
doesn't have
Can
anything.
you hear me?
No, no, you
Could
could
y'all
say.
hear me?
No, what you say?
Oh no,
Oh,
you
I
are.
said, I
You're
said,
muted.
I said no.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
Okay,
go.
very good.
Well, there you go. That answers that question. In other news, one last thing. Talking about the oil strikes, did you see the? I sent the video. I saw some other videos. The amount of devastation that that's been done to Tehran is just absolutely abysmal. I mean, to the fact that the rain was coming down with particulates from the oil refinery that would burn people's skin. It was corrosive to the buildings, and
Oh yeah,
and the bombs caused the oil to light on fire. So now the entire
yeah.
city is basically like the drains are on fire. It I can't believe that the administration thinks turning a person's country into a literal hell is going to win them over. I think that this is something that I guess we probably should harp on too, is that what really has happened is one of the blowback effects is that by striking Iran, we've made the regime more popular and we've made it more radical. There's millions of people that have been out in the square for the regime, and if you listen to people who are living there on the ground, the people that are living there on the ground are talking about how um, the it's just even if you don't approve of the administration, it's just not the time to talk about that. Like it's just one of those things where everybody knows that now is the time for us to basically defend ourselves and defend our country because we're under attack. And I think that's quite interesting. I think also
By the
we
great Satan.
yeah, I think also we should add a little bit about why this entire conflict started. So many people in America, their entire knowledge of this conflict starts at the hostage crisis. The conflict really started when our government uh, overthrew the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh in 1953, implemented a authoritarian regime under the Shah, who is Reza Pahlavi, the son. That is, his son is the one who's currently advocating to be the new Shah of Iran, which the administration seems to have shot down on multiple occasions. But his authoritarian regime, in connection to the Americans, quality of life declined in Iran. It led to the Islamic Revolution, and the Islamic Revolution has been there ever since. So
that we orchestrated, right?
yeah, there is a level. There is a level where we had some.
The institute put out an article on that either yesterday or today.
Yeah, we basically got them in there, so it is quite hilarious. But the entire revolution was basically founded on this idea of independence from the West. So if you want to justify the institution, you bomb them and show how terrible the West is. And it seems that has been the effect. There's been a rally around the flag effect in Iran, which will likely lead to them having a more radical Ayatollah, which is what this new guy seems to be, the new Khamenei. And therefore, you open the door for an Iranian nuclear weapon.
Real. Yeah, I mean, it's basically it's what I said before. Like we've spent the whole reason why they chant "Dead to America" is because we've been basically saying we need to turn them into a sea of glass, and we've been fucking around in there for half a century, just about messing with their politics, killing their people, um, destabilizing the entire region. Yeah, you're gonna get some people who's like, well, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the reality. It's just the reality is that people, I mean, they have, and we think back to the hostage crisis, but between the hostage crisis and the day, very little has happened between us and the Iranians for Americans. Uh, for the Iranians, we basically attack them all the time. We've killed their generals, we've attacked their cities, We did the 12-day war. We've been basically trying to topple the regime for 50 years, and it should be no surprise that they don't like us and they see us as the greatest threat to their independence, because they don't want to be like the Gulf states. They don't want to be subservient. They want to be able to determine their own foreign policy. And so I think that there's a bit of nobility there, even though, I mean, as much nobility as there can be with any kind of state. But at least they do have an interest in being independent from imperialism. I mean, it's basically they don't want to be taken over. They want to be taken advantage of. And Israel has shown what happens when you ally with the U.S. They have shown that the U.S. is not going to defend its allies in the Gulf, and they will be taken advantage of. So, what can you even say about that? It just seems like their justification gets proven by our own actions. I think Iran is obviously the biggest example of this, but I wanted to transition to some of the stuff from the SAVE Act, and just really kind of expose the administration once again for everybody falling for it, and showing that the administration never ceases to disappoint. It just kind of amazing how much Trump has betrayed the base. I mean, I, to some extent, when he got elected, expected like a level of betrayal, but I do think it's hard to really summarize how much betrayal there's been. The new one is this part of the SAVE Act where he announced 5 posts, and one of them, the 5th one, was that he was going to ban trans surgeries for minors without parental consent. Of course, most trans surgeries to minors happen with parental consent, but that's not the argument. The argument is that even with parental consent, that you can't make that decision. Keller, what do you have to say about the president going back on this conservative pledge and basically just giving the Democrats what they want?
I can't believe Chase Oliver is actually more base than Trump on this.
I know, it's actually amazing. It's actually amazing. Chase Oliver at least says that they should have to be 18. I mean, man, I just can't. Even him being vindicated has become a hard pill to swallow. That's become
A very hard
to
pill.
swallow. That's become a hard pill to swallow. Yeah, I mean, what can even be said about it? It's just so bad. Joe, do you want to say anything about it, since I think you're the only one in the call who is pure and has never had this stain of ever supporting the administration?
Trump is a 90s Democrat.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah,
That's
it's actually worse than a 90s Democrat. I mean, at least, well, I mean, I guess not, because Bill Clinton did Kosovo. So, wah. But at least they had a better economy back then. This has been terrible.
Yeah, I didn't have anything else to say about that but that.
Yeah. No, I told you so.
I do that all the time. Like endless too.
Bo's too humble for that. Bo's too humble.
Yeah, I'm too humble to ever believe that I'm better than somebody else.
Well, I for one, you know, for me, when I vote, it's like one of those things where I kind of vote for what I believe is going to cause the most chaos, because at the end of the day, I want the administration to fall. I want more independence. I want more independence for our states, and so on and so forth. So in some ways, there's actually a lot of benefits to the administration being so abhorrently terrible, is that it really delegitimizes the government to a level that has not been done. Really, since Trump won. I mean, Trump won did delegitimize the state and really got the ball rolling on a ton of this, mainly for a lot of the same reasons, just because of how open the corruption was. But this time it's just interesting because Trump has essentially removed the illusion of him being the hero against it, and now it's just been both sides are just exposed as these swamp creatures, and I think it's going to lead, hopefully, to some kind of radical change in the future. I do think that
It's
go ahead and say
Go
what you're
ahead.
going to say, Joe. No, you go ahead.
I mean, the administration is acting like a regime in like decline.
Yeah, it is.
Like, hey, it already has been, but it's like belligerently stupid.
Yes. This is a
now.
really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm really
Like,
glad you brought that up.
Papa, there's a quote from Papa that I retweeted the other day about like the end stages of empire. Maybe I can find it. Seems like it just popped in the head. So
Yeah, Joe, go find that real quick.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go get something real quick. I'll be right back.
cool, I found it.
All right, cool. I'm back. All right.
Awesome.
So you
I guess
got
I can
Joe.
just. Yeah, I just found it.
Just read it. Just read it.
All right. But empire building also bears the seeds of its own destruction. The closer a state comes to the ultimate goal of world domination and one-world government, the less reason there is to maintain its internal liberalism, and do instead what all states are inclined to do anyway, i.e., to crack down and increase the exploitation of whatever productive people are still left. Consequently, with no additional tributaries available and domestic productivity stagnating or falling, the empire's internal policies of bread and circuses can no longer be maintained. Economic crisis hits, and an impending economic meltdown will stimulate decentralizing tendencies, separatist and secession movements, and lead to the breakup of empire. We have seen this happen with Great Britain, and we are seeing it now with the US and its empire apparently on its last leg.
Yep. I'm so glad you found that. This is actually, I don't know if you read my article, but I talk about this in the article. The one that I had come out recently in the American Conservative, is basically about how America getting involved in this war will bring about the end of the empire, because essentially um, it increases the speed of the business cycle, it decreases liberty, and like you said, eventually we're going to reach an economic crisis. And I really do think we're seeing in real time the U.S. reach its end of the Soviet Union moment, where it just can't uphold itself anymore, and things are just going to start to fall away. I think that this war has a really good chance of bringing that about, and like you said, I think that it really does demonstrate an empire decline, because of the way that, like the each move like a gambler, and this ends up being the case, in a lot of boom bust cycles as well, like big companies that benefit from low interest rates. Once it starts to become, they engage in more and more risky behavior in the hope that by engaging in the riskier behavior, it will they'll get some kind of big win that will spur them back to a point of strength. And I think that this Iran war really seems to be kind of like that, where it's exposing the weaknesses in the regime that we're fighting this because we're not ready for it and everything. But they feel they have to do it because of the weaknesses, because they're losing their status to China. They have to show that this one's going to be the one that wins them the day.
No.
But by doing so, what they're really doing is slowly destroying they're making the country weaker by doing the same thing that already made it weak to begin with. So I think you're absolutely right, Joe. It's so clear that this is we're reaching the end stages of the empire. I don't know if you have anything else you want to say about that.
I don't know if this will be like the one that does it, but it's definitely like a huge misstep if you're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one's gonna be.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty. It's
I don't know.
pretty
It will be.
retarded.
I don't know. If it'll be the one to do it. I do think this is gonna have a crazy what was the term that the word that Hoppe used for what happens during the economic crisis? I want to use the exact word he used.
Was it decivilization? I already closed out the tweet.
No, basically, like it's the decentralization. It's going to lead to the decentralization.
Oh, right.
The economic crisis. I just feel it. I feel like 2008 because like 2000. A lot of this is the fact.
Dude, if the gas prices go up, they go up. Prices go up sometimes, man.
That's basically what the administration's saying, but
that is literally what Trump said.
And then Trump said also for like blowback, I guess, this is war. People die in war. Talk about people dying in terrorist attacks caused by the war. So obviously he just kind of seems nonchalant about it. But to get back on the point, my thought is essentially that like, oh man, I fucking lost what I was gonna say. Joe, what were you saying before that?
Decentralizing force.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. My thought is that essentially that in 2008 the economy basically like the Obama administration swept under the rug a lot of pre-existing economic problems with its bailouts. We saw it recently in China where they had bailed out a few corporations and it led to this big boom. And they finally, the thing that the Chinese government did that was quite impressive is that they actually let the big businesses fail, which should have been what was done in 2008. What happened, though, is that we bailed all those companies out. And so it basically put a Band-Aid on the problem. So that debt bubble has built up again. And then obviously stimulus hit it again during COVID. I think and Dr. Mark's talking about this as well. I don't know if it's going to happen now that they bombed the Middle East, but they had previously started reconstruction of that Jeddah Tower, which would be the tallest tower in the world. I think by 2028 there's going to be some kind of big economic crash. It really does feel like the Bush administration all over again, where he's going to lower the interest rate super low so he can have a good economy while he's president, and then it's just going to fall apart right when he leaves office, basically.
Real.
I think that's going to be it. I think that's going to be it. I think that it's going to be a crazy crash. And I think that the thing about it is that it probably makes the election dynamics, and I've been saying this for a while, if anybody who's been keeping track of the podcast knows this, I think that as long as he doesn't get shot or Trump doesn't get impeached and Vance is the president, someone like a Thomas Massie is like almost surefire to be the GOP nominee. Like someone like that. I don't know if it'll specifically be him. I'm hoping it's specifically him. but it's going to be some kind of person who is the outsider candidate that, like, it just seems like you have like all the setups for like a Ron Paul revolution, especially if this decentralizing effect really comes into play. I think the fact that people hate the Democrats and they hate the Republicans, you see this with the fact in the polls. Every single time the Republicans go down, the Democrats don't increase. They'll probably win the midterms, but really because there's only two options and the Republicans are so unpopular. I really wonder what the long-term effects of that is. I think the only thing, though, is that we really need to hope that Trump doesn't get impeached, because I think that if J.D. Vance is the president, that's basically the coming of the theocracy, right? And I think Thiel will find a way to keep him in there.
Do you think Massey's gonna run?
Yeah, I think it's like certain. I think that a lot of this stuff has been about him running.
Oh, really? Because I know
Yeah.
he's doing what? He's running for his current position.
Yeah, but that
Yeah,
election,
but, like-
that election will be done in like November. So like it'll.
I have no idea how like the House or Congress or any of that stuff like works.
Yeah,
It's
so
the
the House
most ignorant one.
the House gets elected every single 2 years. I think the fact that Massey isn't running for Senate for Rand Paul's seat is telling, because that means that Rand's probably not going to run for president. There's been hints that he might. If Rand runs, that's the only case where Massey won't. But I actually hope Massey runs, because I think Massey's a better candidate.
I think Massey's better. Rand would be a perfect vice president.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean that would be the best case scenario.
But I was being told yesterday, like they thought if Massey runs, like it's probably gonna be JD Vance or Rubio before it'll be Massey, and I was like,
no,
that's kind of crazy.
Crazy. No,
Like,
that sounds
but
crazy.
and the argument was
he was
like
telling you that.
nobody I know.
Okay.
But I was just like the reasoning was like Massey's big to like us as libertarians, but like outside of that, like people don't know who Massey is or anything. And I was just like,
that's rapidly changing. That's rapidly changing. I mean,
that's what I think too. But also like Massey's just so like Massey can explain like economic. Massey's literally one of our guys.
Yeah,
He's literally he's read Mises and
he's gonna be
all that.
I think also one of the things that's being neglected is that that's literally what a campaign is for. Like you become popular on the campaign trail. There's been plenty of times where a candidate who is not supposedly popular comes in and wins the office. But I also don't think he's not popular. I think Marco Rubio is less popular than Massey. I think Marco Rubio, especially after this situation, is going to be less popular. I think J.D. Vance has what momentum? I think people will fall under the illusion that because he's the vice president, that just means he's going to be like the runaway to be the nominee. But if the president is incredibly unpopular, which Trump is incredibly unpopular, the chance that the vice president is the nominee becomes increasingly low. And there's literally been, in like the last 100 years, unless the president got like shot and killed, really only one time the vice president succeeded the president, and that was in Reagan, when Reagan and H.W. Bush. And H.W. Bush still only won one term. So I don't have a lot of confidence for Vance run. I mean, just the basic like history of it seems to suggest that, like, because so much of it's basically tied into the popularity of the previous guy. You basically have to want to vote for a third term of the previous guy. And nobody's going to want to vote for a third term of Trump. Like, what kind of idiot thinks that anybody's going to want to vote for Vance when that's going to be his entire thing? Same thing with Rubio. I mean, Rubio might be able to do it more than Vance because Rubio might be able to distance himself. I think Rubio might already be hinting at that, where he's trying to distance himself a little bit from the administration. make it so he's like the LatCom stuff that succeeds while the rest of the admins, this weird Middle Eastern stuff that fails or whatever. It's stupid, but I think he might be trying to do something like that. Because he is, I think, the smartest member of the administration. That's why he's the one that does everything. Is because really he is the only one with the brain. I'm not saying he's like the brains. It's just the fact that he's the only one that's not retarded. But I think that Massey has a really good shot as the discontent candidate in the same way that Ron Paul did. Ron Paul was not necessarily super popular, but he was able, just because his message was like resonated like lightning through the people, he got all the grassroots support. And grassroots support matters a lot more nowadays than it ever has, especially with the internet and everything. And with a media environment where a Ron Paul kind of figure can't get censored anymore, they're going to win the presidency. I mean, they came in second back in 2008 when the entire media establishment was against them and the American people were a lot more supportive of Iraq. The Republican Party was a lot more supportive of Iraq as well. I just think that it's plain as day that in this new environment, I mean, Trump won the nomination in 2016. Whoever is not Trump but seems like they're genuinely going to do what Trump promised is going to be who wins. And I don't think the Democrats are going to be able to get somebody like that because the Democrats, their party system's too corrupt. They have a lot more actual control of the party apparatus through their super delegates of who gets nominated. They have like appointed delegates and elected delegates. And the elected delegates are appointed by like how people vote in the primaries, while the super delegates vote basically by which way the party wants them to vote. The Republicans only have elected delegates. So that's why Trump was able to take over the Republican nomination, was because it's an easier process. I think like if the base can get back to what it was like a few years ago, or like even what it was in 2008, I think it's pretty easy to see that like a Massey is going to have a really good shot of success.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking probably the same myself. I was just like, that's a crazy take. Like, you're definitely MAGA. You're definitely MAGA brained.
Yeah, MAGA brain people but they don't see this as being as unpopular as it's going to be. I think that's the real problem with MAGA brain, and they also don't see for some reason
they hate Thomas Massey.
Yeah, I just don't think they see.
He's a Democrat.
I think they just don't see the contradiction in what they're saying. And Trump used to be a Democrat, so we'll see how much that actually really weighs in their mind. I think that the cult of personality is
with the 99% like voting record with Republicans.
Yeah.
But because you hate pedophiles and you're a
people see that.
Yeah, bro.
People see that. Boomers are already becoming less a margin of the vote. Like people like I just think people
But this
see that.
kind of rhetoric is definitely like Zoomer, Twitter MAGA influencer rhetoric for sure.
Yeah.
Like it's nobody somehow like I don't know.
Well, what I want to say. You know what I want to say is that one of the good signs is that Fuentes isn't going to get behind Massey, and Fuentes candidates always lose, so that's always a good thing.
I wasn't even really thinking about Fuentes for real.
I know. I'm just saying. I saw something. He made the same kind of argument, so it reminded me of that, and then it was like really like okay, so our options are JD Vance and Marco Rubio. Yeah, that's really inspiring. No, I just or Gavin Newsom. Gavin fucking Newsom. You think Gavin Newsom's gonna solve the problem? What happens?
He'll get us nationwide YIMBYism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real.
We need that
Well, unless it actually means
more than anything else.
unless it actually means building a house. He'll let everything happen in your backyard except loose zoning laws.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Dude, it's I just can't believe it. you can just look at California. You can just look at California, and California is run terribly, and that's how America would be run under Gavin Newsom. The fact that he's white and has a white wife just doesn't appeal to me. Like I have no interest in that. I really do think it's quite amazing, these racialists, and how much really boils down to just, hey,
Thomas
appearance of
Massey
the
has a
person.
white wife.
I mean, that too. That too.
Keep Thomas Massey getting
But
support by
well, Thomas Massey actually doesn't
The
have
only reason
back. But like, it's just, I just think. Well, I think Nick Fuentes is bought out. I think Nick Fuentes is an op. I've always thought that. I think he's an op. I think Candace Owens is an op. I think Alex Jones is an op. And they're
I remember when Candace Owens was like ran a doxing website for literal kids.
yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah. Candace is like definitionally like an op. Like, I mean, she left the Daily Wire, and she was so ingrained in there over very little things, and she became more and more radical, and she just makes our movement look bad. I mean, I think that's really it. She just makes our movement look bad, and I think that the main thing is that the Daily Wire was surprised by how popular she got with white moms.
Yeah.
But I think that she's just an op. I think she makes up so much crap. She gets all of our issues tied up. She makes Tucker look bad. I think that's another thing too, because I think Tucker gets lumped in with a lot of these people, when Tucker, I think, is actually quite reasonable. I mean, I don't like a lot of his economics. I think he's gotten better again. He's come more our way on issues again. Economically, I would encourage him to continue, but I think that, like,
The other day.
huh? He did have Ron
Did he have
Paul.
Ron
Not,
Paul
yeah,
the other day?
he had Ron Paul not too long
I
ago.
gotta watch
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, it's 90-year-old Ron Paul, but Tucker had a lot of really good words about him. I thought the intro was very good. You like have to watch that.
Word.
I love Dr. Paul, but he is what, 90 years old now. So I don't have a problem with listening to old people, but some people can't do it, and he talks like an old person. It shows. But God bless him. God willing, we can keep him a little longer. I think it's
I'll listen to any old person that sounds like they're gonna give me some candy.
so real, so true. I just wish we could hear what Rothbard had to say about this. I really do. I feel like talking about, I guess the last thing for this episode would be a little tribute to Rothbard for his 100th birthday this last week or so. Obviously the GOAT.
I think it was like Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. I think it's hard to understate how important his ideas have been, and I really do just feel like he would have so much interesting things to say about this current conflict, the way that the decline is happening, the way that we're seeing a lot of parallels with the Soviet Union, the way that we're seeing a lot of parallels what we did in the Cold War, and how this is just really the effect of creating the totalitarian bureaucracy that Rothbard fought against Buckley so heavily, to try to prevent, and just seeing the consequences of our actions unfold in real time. It's also basically only able to be done because we went off the gold standard. Vietnam was the war that we did like this that should have stopped us from doing these in the future, but we went off the gold standard, and Rothbard furiously warned against that. And basically, it just feels like now more than ever, it's just important to remember just how right Rothbard was about so much, and just how poignant his words continue to be. I just think about a lot of the stuff I read from him, and it rings so true all these years later. Talking about the welfare warfare state, and how states basically, like, the war is the health of the state, utilizing that to its power. So I think it's important to mention that.
If y'all want to read more about his essays about Buckley and all of his critiques and stuff, you should definitely pick up a copy of the Essential Rothbard. We have a audiobook just recently. I finished a couple weeks ago on it, so buy it on your Amazon and then check out Rothbard.
And then, of course, obviously, his seminal work on it, The Betrayal of the American Right, if you really want to get the full history of that. Before we go, do you guys have anything else you want to say to the audience? I guess before I go, you can follow me at Childers Moment on Twitter, and I just want to say thank you to Mr. Joe for coming on this episode.
You're welcome, dude.
Do you have anything you want to say, Joe?
Thanks for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to having you on in the future. It's always good to have you on. We try to do this every week, but we've been kind of lazy with it. So
not lazy. The news was lazy.
The news was lazy. That's our excuse. The news was lazy. Then
I wouldn't call that lazy.
Then the news started. Then the war started. Yeah, it's been crazy. And then the war started. Now that's why we have to make one now. Yeah, start a few more wars. Something finally happened. I think that might be the title of the episode. Is something finally happened. And Keller, do you have anything else you want to say before the audience before we go?
No. I think I got my point across pretty well. Happy birthday, Rothbard. Check out the Mises Institute, check out Mises.org, check out our books on Amazon, check out everything, and be more informed. Don't let the boomers say this isn't a war. Don't let Brian Holly say that Trump did an awesome job. Don't let
Ben Shapiro's eyebrows grow any larger.
Yeah, don't let don't let Ben Shapiro's eyebrows and beard or mustache get any bigger and bolder.
To convince you to go to war.
To convince you to go to war. I know it looks attractive.
Or Mark Levin's little pig squeal be like, we got a bomb Iran.
Don't let your favorite and best basketball team in the entire college football college basketball.
Yeah, bro. Not only did Bruce Pearl fall off, but Auburn basketball fell off too, dude.
It did. That's not punishment. See, I thought those who bless Israel would be blessed, but it seems that Auburn University is
Auburn's not getting the blessed, folks. Auburn's not getting blessed, folks. This is Auburn is a microcosm for America. America has been supporting Israel more than any other country in the world, and what have we gotten? We've just gotten more cursed. We've just gotten more cursed since we've supported Israel, and we've just gotten poorer.
Direct evidence that Mike Huckabee is wrong about that interpretation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just blatantly wrong. Oh, yeah, Mike. Getting off into so many caveats. We could talk about so much, but I think I'm going to end it here. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure to follow me at Childers Moment on Twitter, Keller at Kyokagen, and Joe at Burn the Lies. All of those will be in the description. And remember to keep defending liberty and don't fall for the war propaganda. Thanks again, and bye.